What's up, everybody? This is Zach James, founder of StarScript, and this is Season 2 of the StarScript Observatory, where creators and patrons get discovered. I'm here with longtime friend Zach Imondi, and we just recently hit our reunion, 10-year reunion, actually, where we haven't seen each other in quite some time. Of course, we've seen each other digitally, but not in real life, so quite a celebration.
Yeah.
How you doing?
Oh, I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah.
Last night, sleeping on your couch, and there's a snake, kind of swerving around by my head, and it's just kind of a new experience. But it reminds me of 10 years ago when we were hanging out. So nothing's really changed too much.
It's kind of like an external representation of part of your Kundalini.
Right, exactly. And that's why, I'm open to it. I'm open to exploring that. So thank you for that.
Yeah. And you are a musician.
Yes.
And a filmmaker.
Sure. I mean, I've done some video work. I do some illustration work. Really, I'm just interested in exploring art and that whole world, expression, human expression.
And you have a title for your artwork right now, a brand name. And what
Sure,
is that?
yeah. The music is under the name Lightheart Sounds.
Available on Spotify and
it's all there. Spotify, Apple, YouTube. That's right. If you look it up, it's also on SoundCloud. I'm a SoundCloud rapper, so
okay. And a new album just dropped how long ago?
Last July. So I'm due for some new here. Got a lot in the queue.
I mean, you could go Tool status and go however many years they did. I think it was like 8 to 10 or maybe
wow, that
more.
gives me a lot of confidence, kind of, and
right.
Honestly, it takes a huge weight off my shoulders.
Instead of like every year or 2 years or something like that.
Wow. I mean, what's possible if I wait 8 years for another project? This is just a different mode of thinking that I should consider. Thank you.
Yeah. I think it just depends though, because Tool's sells out everywhere they go, like the biggest stadiums possible. They've got a cult following.
I'll just wait 8 years and then I'll draw a project and just get 0 views again and be like, 8 years. Should drop this 8 years ago.
I think the 8-year wait only works if you reach a certain point. I'm not sure what that is, but once you reach that point, you can go long times and then it works out okay. Mm-hmm. So tell me what's like the prime motivation behind your music just like what's the concept behind your music? How do you describe it? I know so many elements of music is undescribable, but
sure. I would say that it's an appreciation for beauty. Certain experiences I've had have had a lot of I've been moved certain ways and have really aided a lot of my development as far as just being a human, educational or philosophical, and also aided me in my relationships and aided me in my perception of art and culture and stuff like that. And so really what I'm trying to do is just to become more familiar with all of that stuff, all of the world's history, all of the world's art, and trying to, shape my own hand to produce a unique expression as per the tradition.
Mm-hmm. And the latest album is called?
It's called Welcome to the Island.
Welcome to the Island.
Yeah.
And why don't you let the audience know what the concept is? Because this is a concept album, which I think is something that I always love more of. I mean, there's those plenty of music albums out there that they're just like song per song. It means its own specific thing. But with a concept album like Dark Side of the Moon, probably one of the most well-known concept albums that exist, that there's a theme throughout the whole album. It's a story that's told. Another one is Hazards of Love by the Decemberists that I could name offhand. But this is another one. So go ahead and...
Sure. As far as, the idea and the effort behind certain projects, it's really just about getting lost. You plug in your MIDI keyboard and you start exploring some sounds, and before you know it, something just connects and hits you, and then you just follow that trail. And the same thing goes for observing and consuming visual art. So just idea of like having a vision board, looking for inspiration, traveling to certain areas or studying certain histories. So I don't know what magnet was drawing me towards the island life, probably just sun and water.
I mean,
very simple stuff there.
I mean, you've always been attracted to the sea, and that's something we've always had in common, right? We are nautical folk. We are spiritually somehow connected to the ocean and the pirate life and the
Right.
ships, and something about freedom, maybe something about the environment of tropics or something like that.
It's about leaving the shore and risking it all, you know, because you're very comfortable on the shore, so you got to get off the shore. When you're off the shore, where are you going and what are you doing, right? And so these are questions you're trying to figure out.
And
obviously the answer to that is that you're traveling to Asia and you're purchasing silks to bring back to the family. That's clearly the answer.
Purchasing silk, some foreign...
Right, and along the way, it's 10 years later, so your family believes that you're dead. Everybody thinks you're dead, and then you're arriving back home on a summer's afternoon. The ship is seen over the horizon, and the biggest party ever pops off when they realize that not only are you not dead, but you've brought back the riches from the East. So this
from not the new world, but the old world.
I mean,
if you're going from the East, right?
Yeah, whatever. I mean, any world that's different from where you're coming from is going to be a new world, right?
Right.
So.
True. Yeah. So, but then there's like a narrative to the concept album, which is that you have someone in a position of like an account, or I guess it could really be anybody, that is kind of living the 9-to-5 life.
Yeah.
Where, and a lot of people kind of like the 9-to-5 life because it presents job security. And then there's many other, let's say, independents, entrepreneurs, creatives out there that are looking for something that is not necessarily in that, has that, 9-to-5, 5 days a week. And it's something that's more dynamic.
Just to be honest with you, for a while I'm fighting the 9-to-5 vibe. I think everybody's fighting this 9-to-5 vibe. But as soon as I got the 9-to-5 vibe, all of a sudden all of my prospects are going straight up into the heavens. So
you embrace the 9-to-5.
Well, you may want to hit the 9-to-5 for a little bit and let that, be some water onto your garden. And
so for all the waiters out there that are in LA or somewhere else that embrace your 9-to-5.
Yeah, and study, while you're at the job, study human nature, study human characteristics, try to find some inspiration, try to find some friends, along the way.
And it's great in the server role, which is some type of like traditional role where you can make, I guess, like fairly good money while you're trying to make it as an artist.
I mean, as an artist, you're picturing yourself as this expressive king who's, laying down a chord, laying down a color or some type of statement that you're making with your art. And of course, when you're serving at a restaurant, you're asking people how you may be of help. So it's a really flip of the roles. And again, that's humbling. And I just say to embrace it. It's valuable to embrace in the short term, right? Because of course you also want to be working towards wherever you're trying to go. But anyway, so yeah, this guy, he's coming from, a 9-to-5 job. He's had enough. He's
worked hard. He's like made some money.
He's made some money, but the money just ain't doing it anymore.
It's like not enough. It's like the money isn't the thing you value anymore. I think it's always nice, and maybe a lot of viewers can relate to that. It's like they reach a certain point where like, okay, I've got it going, I've got the momentum going, I'm making pretty good money, but I'm not spiritually fulfilled. I don't think that this is something that is really my core purpose, and that's why a lot of people have that side gig. But sometimes the challenge with that is it's enduring, right? There's like an endurance that comes along with it, but in the case of this concept album, you have someone who's pretty much saying like, I want to leave this life temporarily. Is that right? It initially starts.
I don't think he's got a long-term plan. I think he's just
inspired to go,
straight up escaping.
And then he's just like, like we'll see where it takes me, right?
So it's really, when you're in the cubicle, of course, for some reason the cubicle color is gray. And you're sitting in a room with fluorescent lights that are kind of flickering.
And they make a sound, like a buzzing sound, like a mosquito buzzing sound. Like where, those lights that like kill mosquitoes.
Oh, exactly.
It's kind of like that a little bit.
And you feel like
your complexion looks all weird.
Well, a lot of things start looking weird over time.
Yeah,
So, yeah, I mean, he really cashes in his IRA, cashes in his retirement that he's been building over years. And he just says, screw it. I'm going to the postcard that he's been looking at.
He's been looking at a postcard,
whatever he's looking at for the last 10 years.
Some type of picture that inspires you to where you want to be.
Everybody knows
it's different.
It's the island. That's the escape
than where you
getaway.
are now.
It's exotic. It's wild. It's new. It's rejuvenating.
And it starts with like the flight, right? Like basically leaving, and then.
So I mean, as far as crafting the project goes, the script writes itself, right? I mean, here's a guy at work. He's got to get on a plane and go. So what's the first song? The first song is on the plane, looking out the window. And what are you seeing? You're not really seeing ocean. You're kind of coming out of a fog. And as soon as you come out of the fog, you're seeing a landscape of 10,000 volcanoes. Again, just the most fantastical, the most exotic, because the cubicle lifestyle is so potent that we have to make the tropical lifestyle equally as potent, and it's a little dream world.
And it's kind of like sometimes the cubicle lifestyle can seem hopeless in some ways, and like it's like a doom. It's like, is this what my life has like become?
Absolutely.
Like for me to have well-being, to have retirement, to have job security, and to be able to pay for the necessities that I like.
Right.
I'm now enslaved.
This whole time where you're sustaining, or you're acquiring the things that sustain your life, you're grappling with questions of identity, and you're grappling with questions of who will I be, what can I be, which is obviously like a poetic question, a philosophic question, and it nags at you every day. You know what I mean? And every mundane conversation you're having. So again, you just have to, and eventually you're going to break free from that, right? It's only natural to fly the coop.
To kind of want to go out and this brings me to like, something that I was saying earlier today was that, the album reminds me of a Disney album, which is really from a Disney movie, right? It's like the score from a Disney movie, because every song on there, it's like a different scene. Right. Like there's some new progression that's going on. It's in the same theme. It's in the same story, going to an island. It's got, a befitting theme. Like I can name a few things. It's like we have like, for me, it's like Swiss Family Robinson. It's Black Sails, which is an awesome, pirate story that was on Stars. It's a precursor to Treasure Island.
Right. What's that?
And
Matthew McConaughey's, he's done like 3 movies now where he's like the beach bum.
Oh, really? Okay.
I mean, come on.
What's one of them?
It's called Beach Bum.
Beach Bum. Okay. We've got Lost, which we both like.
Lost. But Matthew McConaughey, he's got Fool's Gold, where he's out searching for treasure. It's a rom-com.
I think I might have seen that one.
Great movie.
What is it you think about going to an island and going to a tropical thing that is so liberating for people?
Yeah, I think it's the experience of foreign nature. So, the water itself is obviously reflecting the sunlight. It looks like illuminating current, some power stream that you can just dive into, and it's cold and it's
flowing. It's pretty much
cleaning you. There's a lot of rejuvenatory elements, and then of course you're going underwater and you're seeing the most alien-like creatures and reef forms and colors, and everything is viewed through a refraction of the water and sun. So it becomes even more dreamlike and even more exotic and
you're
foreign.
Floating. We're talking underwater now. It's like your movement changes, right? And
right, exactly. There's even a bodily experience where you're now weightless, and
right.
It's just about experiencing something beautiful, something foreign, something new that also maybe brings some healing to you. And
so just for our listeners, like basically it's this person who is living this 9-to-5 life, and kind of summary of the intro.
Right.
He's getting on a plane, basically getting to this place, which, is identified by the stewardess as being paradise.
Right.
Right. And then going and experiencing this other lifestyle that is more...
The first thing that happens when he arrives is just that he realizes he's never going home. Right
when he gets there.
I'm never going back.
That's it.
What have I been waiting for? This has been I've wasted so many years. But of course, would he have gotten there without the IRA liquidation? See, these are the questions that have to be asked. You got to maybe pay in to get out.
And then how long will the IRA last? Because maybe he's in a cheaper location unless he went to...
So you got to learn a new trade. Now you're making shell necklaces, popping out of the ocean and disturbing tourists. I don't know. That could work though.
Yeah.
Happened to me.
But luckily there's a sort of classical treasure, not hunt, but there's some type of treasure opportunity.
Of course, there
that
always
exists.
is.
That's throughout the concept album.
Right, and this is, it could be metaphorical. It can be this idea that he's arriving to the island and receiving this hidden value.
Maybe it's within himself,
and he was searching for something, and that's what led him there. I think that's why the treasure story is so powerful traditionally with the tropics, and just with the idea of exploring and being on a ship and going out and finding something and discovering something new. But yeah, he's showing... in my head, I'm writing this story and I'm thinking, all right, accountant man, 9 to 5, goes to island, realizes he's never going back. Well, what happens to him while he's there? Well, of course he's going to stumble upon some emeralds, some rubies, and some gold. Yeah, and it's, you know, it's not even like he's not even there.
A value, pretty much, I guess that's
sure. Yeah. And what way is value better represented than in a huge ruby necklace, you know, that swangs,
I'm not sure,
you know, in the ocean breeze. Just saying. The idea of relishing what you find. So he gets there, and you know, he realizes he's never going back. He's hanging out with some guy drinking some cervezas on the beach and sees kind of a bonfire in the distance. So he goes over there to check out the little party that's going down, and he meets the beach bum, and the beach bum is, you know, they're shooting it. And he gets approached by a man who's dressed up kind of in a traditional tiki garb, you know, traditional Polynesian kind of tribal gear. And, you know, he's a little disturbed by him. He looks a little intimidating. And, you know, the beach bum tells him, don't worry, dude, I think he works for the resort. He's all cool. So the tiki man starts pouring him up drinks, and kind of the rest gets a little foggy.
I see. Yeah. And then really it's like an album filled with, you know, the thing about albums is that they take you on a story all the way through. So it's not like you know, sometimes when you hear a song, you're like, wow, I want more of that world. The great thing about an album is that it takes you through multiple, not iterations, but scenes, I guess, of that story. Chapters, and allows you to kind of follow along. And it's kind of fun. It kind of, I think, inspires us to make closer attention or pay closer attention to what's going on in the story, and then kind of like, oh wow, now it's here, and then going on an adventure. And I think that's super.
Who are the characters? What is the plot? What are the actions? You know, there's got to be some type of danger, some type of villain that approaches. And so in this concept album, of course, he's dosed up by the tiki man at this bonfire party. The tiki man drags him to this location on a beach. He wakes him up in the morning. He says, "Oh," and he's no longer wearing his tiki stuff. So now he's just the island guy. And he says, "Hey, I think you fell asleep last night at the beach. You'll feel better if you go for a swim."
Yeah.
But really, he's coaxing him into the water because the tiki man knows that right within the water is the treasure. And he's got this plan for this new kind of naive Western accountant guy to stumble upon. He's got a good heart.
It's like a prophecy. He needs a naive Westerner.
Right. Or somebody that clearly will share it with others. Somebody who's just kind of on a vacation and can't believe he's fallen into, you know, $30 billion of emeralds.
It's kind of like Hocus Pocus, where you need like a virgin to light the black flame candle, but in this case, you need a Westerner accountant.
Exactly. Consultant. What else?
He was waiting for like 1,000 years to find a Westerner accountant to hit this island.
Right. Well, he's looking for one that's really naive, like that just drinks that are poured into his cup, you know?
Right. And that's why he's able to kind of like give him some type of like ayahuasca type.
Right, he drugs him, and one of the tracks is kind of a hallucinatory, you know, song of the tiki man pouring him up and dancing around him and kind of putting him into a trance so that he can knock him out.
And then I think the result, well, maybe I shouldn't cover it this time, but there's basically a conclusion, I guess, of the story of I guess in the beginning he's like, okay, I'm not going back, but then like there's an adventure beyond the not going back, to where, you know, he basically discovers the greatness of this life and how that there is such a thing. I think one of the great lessons of it is that there is such a thing as a different life. There is such a thing as different lifestyles. There's dramatically different ways to, you know, live your life from an environmental standpoint, from a daily routine standpoint. And oftentimes we get stuck in a certain routine because it works. We are fed, our rent is paid, whatever, but we get stuck in a certain routine over time. And then we kind of feel that it's like sucking the life out of us. We feel like, hey, this isn't what life is all about. And so become curious for something new. And in a way, the concept album is really it's really a journey of discovery of a different life that is possible.
Yeah, and I find that happening with me personally a lot, and I recognize it in others as well, is you're really kind of hopping from one interest to another, and you're accumulating all these different vantage points of life, and it's just kind of conglomerating within you to become this person, this persona. And hopefully, and this is kind of, you know, what I encourage is, you know, as you acquire all these different perspectives, you know, grapple with them and try to blend them and synthesize them. And then once you do that, let's get the expression, let's get the message, send it back out, you know? And I think that's kind of an idea of abundance. If everybody's doing that, then we're all getting richer. But that journey is kind of perilous. And a lot of people don't get very far on it, honestly.
Or it just becomes it just stays as a concept in the mind.
Right. Yeah.
And then you just are kind of like, hey, like I remember like, because I'm from Vegas. And so there's a lot of people in Vegas who are like, someday I'll live the dream of being in California. Granted, we've got the 12% state tax rate versus the zero tax rate. And
people in Vegas want to move to California?
There's plenty of people in Vegas that are like, I want to move to California. I got like a 3-year plan or something. And they're trying to figure out, I think that what a lot of people don't realize is once you move to California, the money that you earn actually goes up as well. And so it kind of compensates itself, but there's definitely a hustle, here in LA where, people are hungry and they want to make it. But I wanted to kind of transition from what you're currently working on to, your origin story. Yeah. So it's like, so you have this musician element, but you also were a sponsored. Yeah, go ahead.
Hold on, just to touch on something. A minute ago, I was talking about, synthesizing the different perspectives that you've acquired over time and then expressing them. So the musician phase for me is really that moment of taking action. It's no longer taking in and starting to put out. Okay. And of course there's a long road of technical development, learning piano, learning guitar, learning producing, learning all these different things. Mediums. But what's there hopefully is those perspectives, those visions that you've gained. And so for me, that's the source of everything that I'm doing is really like, 10 years of studying, 10 years of meeting people, 10 years of experiencing life and really searching out more meaningful, more deep experiences, answers, looking for truth, looking for understanding about how the world is working and, what my role in it is. And finally, and that's a weird thing, right? To now try to communicate through, a Telecaster or a guitar. But it's also a beautiful thing and a poetic thing. But, music is one thing. I'm also interested in filmmaking and illustration and all these different type of expressions. I think it's interesting, or it's important to develop different forms of expression as an artist, because each different expression gives you a different way of representing that thing. But yeah, so I used to, I still skate, but for a long time I was skateboarding for about a decade, probably a little more. I was just I was trying to live the dream. I was trying to go.
You're like a sponsored skater.
Well, I was trying to go pro. You watch all these skate videos, and I'm just skating 12 hours a day. I'm watching every single 411 video that comes out, every single Trans World video that comes out.
Dang.
I'm just blasting Trans World soundtracks on my iPod while I'm trying to learn how to board slide in the back of my house. For just the very traditional skateboarder story.
Okay.
And it's a romantic story, to be honest with you, because it's a story about overcoming and falling down and just eating crap over and over and over.
And trying a new thing. And it's funny because like when you do a move skateboarding, there is a logic element. So I'm not saying they're not, but there's definitely an emotional or a muscle memory or like a feel, I guess you say, type element where you're like, oh, that won't feel right. Like I remember for me, and I know this is pretty basic moves, but heel flip, kick flip. I remember really it was all about keeping where my top of my body was oriented when I threw my feet out pretty much to try to flip the board over.
Yeah, if you open up too much this way, you go front side. If you go too much this way, it goes back side. And I think for kick flips, it's all about learning how to flick the ankle, let it loose and flick it. There's impossible.
The flick, but then I remember I would like flick and always land like with the board in between my legs. Oh, yeah. And then it was all about like, where's your center of your body going?
No, it was about 20,000 reps.
Yeah.
It was about 20,000 reps.
Totally.
I mean, how many times did you flip the board over halfway before it went full? Many. I mean, you don't even have to land it to reach moments of glory. When it does the full 360, you're finally...
Yeah.
And that's rep 7,000.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Where it finally goes all the way around.
Sometimes you land too early and like nails your shin.
I mean, I knew kids that were landing kickflips for like 5th try.
So right. Jeez, that's crazy. And like, so kind of like, it's funny for those of us who are like, or familiar with the skateboard craze and the skateboard world, is that the next artwork element that came in, like I would say the next two artwork elements that came in that supplemented it was music and film.
Yeah.
Right? Because
you got to
it's like,
make
how do
skate
you
videos.
film? Yeah, you got to make skate videos. And it's where I definitely got exposed to a lot of punk music, which is probably my first love of, or my first genre that I really loved in music. And I got exposed to a lot of, like, there was the first skate video I got, which was a VHS, which was called Hitting the Streets. But there was, it had no effects on there, and Pennywise and Lagwagon. It just really, like, influenced me, in a lot of different ways. But
we got to get back to our roots. We got to start hitting the streets. Bro.
Yeah, hitting the streets, and it was all like San Francisco with like a flat board, like there was no lip at the top.
San Francisco is the best, one of the, the best skate scene.
But also it just inspires a lot of filmmaking because there's a lot of goofing off going on. There's a lot of stunts and tricks, and that kind of like paved the way into things like shows like Jackass and Viva La Bam and things like that. Yep. So there really is a film element, and that kind of, with your just past skateboarding history, like you kind of like we're part of that same culture,
right? With skateboarding, it's the same story. It's risk and reward. It's having an outcome, venturing from the shore. Like when I'm trying to 50-50 a 13 stair handrail for the first time, maybe I did an 8 stair or something, but 13, man, if I mess up, like I'm going down.
You're going down.
I'm going down, and and I don't want to go down. I want to land it first try, right? So it's just that moment right before you pop, onto the rail. It's the same moment of probably right before you go on stage, right before you, start the show.
Right.
We just dive into the deep end.
It's funny, like for me, I have a couple of different phases. I guess every artist or performer is different. And that is, it's kind of like I relate it to diving in the ocean. Yeah. The ocean is incredibly intimidating conceptually for me, where I'm like, why would anybody
is there a shark
whale,
right there?
shark,
is it right
dark
there?
object, unknown, urchin, whatever.
How deep is
and then
this?
like once I get to the point where I'm like putting on the equipment, somehow that leaves me. And I've always like to say that, a lot of people are like, love conquers fear. And I'm not saying I argue with that or anything, but I think oftentimes curiosity is a great remedy for fear, because if you're more curious than fearful, it kind of takes over, where you're like, what if? Like, what if I'm being
a pansy right now? I need to jump in this ocean because I'm missing out on all of life. You know? And it's just the idea of pushing yourself
or even further. Right. That's the idea.
What can I find? And again, we talk about getting stagnant and getting comfortable. And I think that's the natural thing that happens when you're ready for the next metamorphosis, the shedding of the skin, the new phase of identity of again, what you can be, what you can do.
You kind of stabilize. Once you stabilize, things can get stagnant, like you were saying. And then once they get, and I always kind of like the philosophy, and, I do, on the side, I've been a business developer. I help a lot of startups. And one of the things I kind of like to preach is that, a little, discomfort is okay. And that if you're too comfortable, it can kind of be a demon, where you are just kind of staying in the same position. Or if sometimes a lot of people I think get stuck in contemplation about what if or what are the possibilities. Yeah. And to have that thought process move into action, where you can actually be a creative force. And a lot of times, these different mediums, whether it be music or whether it be writing, storytelling, filmmaking, artwork, it's really a way, not only just expression, which I think expression is kind of a ambiguous term, not that it doesn't have value, but it's ambiguous, but to actually deliver some type of message. And maybe that message has different layers, and it gets exposed, those layers get exposed over time, but still there's like this message that you have to deliver, that you're trying to share with people and expose. Right. And I know there's a money element, but if we could remove the money element and this idea, we're like, hey, if we're already in abundance, so what is the idea?
So, that's one half of the journey, is figuring out what the message is. And that it means you're looking for answers. That means you're looking to understand, the functions of life. And, when a song hits you, even when you're learning about music, when a song hits you, why is it hitting me in this certain type of way? And it's clearly because, you have the shimmers of the bells coming in, and just the bells are the best. So that's right. Just it, obviously. If a string section comes in and takes you from a low and just drags you high, it's that simple, honestly, in that moment. But again, it's just about learning and about, like you said, being extremely curious. I think curiosity is all of it. It's all of it, because like I said earlier, it's all about finding new interests. And for me, it's also about maintaining fuel levels. If you're this, rocket ship that's burning across the sky, you have to get out of the atmosphere, you have to maintain, combustion or force. So for me,
at least to a certain time, and then
right,
once
and
you reach
float,
a certain point,
you can coast. Exactly.
And that's kind of like almost like where things harmonize, where that's an interesting metaphor I've never thought of before, is really there's all this force that's required. There's all these resources that are required to launch, which we use that term launch in business development. We use it for artists all the time. And then once you're launched, you still need to maintain. There's still things that can affect your trajectory and stuff like that.
The beautiful thing is that, we are the beneficiaries of thousands of years of human striving and human art and human culture. So for me personally, when I'm starting to feel a little burnt out or something, I just hop into the next world to explore. Think of how many cultures there are, how many individuals that have done certain tasks or certain inventions, and just worlds, again, to fall into, learn about. Each world has its own connection to all the other worlds. There's some universal story at play, but they have their own adornments and their own colors and textures and sounds. If you think about all the different worlds' religions, for instance, or all the different worlds, all the different cultures' foods. I was thinking about this the other day. You have Italian food. It's like pasta, tomatoes, and meat. And you have like tacos, and it's like bread, meat. Rice. It's the same, and then pico. It's the same three ingredients.
Like beans, cheese,
but just different colors. And so, for me though, again, it's about re-upping on the fuel. And this is simple. If you go on Craigslist and you find some dude giving away 30 years of National Geographic magazines, and you're good. You just open one up, and it's over. You're in another world completely, and the inspiration floods you again. And I think once you go through revolutions of that, of falling, losing steam, finding new coal, putting it back in the oven, and just propelling again, once you do that, each time that you discover a new world, the coal just revs up on a new level.
It's kind of like Phoenix energy a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So there's this idea, and that's what we were talking about earlier, the idea of identity. You're shedding layers. Because the question is, what can I be? And that question is very hard to answer.
And then once you be it, you're like, what else? You're like, all right, I'm ready to let that go. What
right.
else can I be? And
exactly.
that's kind of like the reinvention.
In music, I started off making music, and I was immediately drawn to, probably because of the gear that I bought, but I was playing a synthesizer, and I was immediately making 80s vibe, music. And so I was freaking David Bowie. I was making David Bowie music, and I was on fire.
That's appropriate for our backdrop and everything.
And then you just move, and then, oh, look, I just discovered this new thing. Oh, look now. Oh, I'm learning about the Doors. I'm learning about the 60s. I'm learning about the 70s. I love folk music all of a sudden. I just bought a flute. It keeps going. It keeps going. And I haven't seen that come to an end. It's like you're telling me about earlier. We were chatting about, have you seen this? Have you seen this? Have you seen this? I'm like, man, there's a lot of stuff
You've been in that like artist isolation where it's like, I don't want to be influenced by any other
Look,
artwork.
I gotta suck the juice from one thing before I get to the next thing.
Right.
I don't want to look back at the juice and be like, what did I leave behind?
What's your trajectory? Since we were talking about the rocket trajectory, getting out of space and getting in that kind of like gravity-free zone where your momentum is propelling you, I guess. What is the future of and your entity is
Lightheart
Sounds, and the album again that you recently released is
Welcome to the Island. I have a previous EP called Oh Give In to Life,
which has amazing songs on it as
well. Opening up.
Nautical theme. There's just so many mixtures of.
You see this nautical theme. I'm not like consciously expressing it. I guess I am on track 2 when I say I got a new boat, but that's pretty overt.
It's there for me because of our past history, and
right.
we've both been
and this is the interesting thing we're talking about is when you're consuming these different interests at all time, they subconsciously manifest in some spontaneous moment of expression. People talk about freestyling all the time. You drop the beat and you just get on the mic and see what happens. Well, when you're on the mic trying to find that golden melody, your whole history pours out if you let it, and that's one of the biggest tricks as to how do you open up and let it out. You know, that's really the whole game, is lowering all the thought barriers, lowering all the analysis, and just, unlocking the door.
And so what's,
Yeah. So in the future here, I mean, short term and long term, it's the same recipe. It's focus on, acquiring technical proficiency. So learning guitar, learning new instruments. It's so crazy. We're living in like the best time ever to make music. I mean, I cannot believe the type of sounds I'm able to create from a $99 keyboard. And so, but also, drifting into the world of acoustic instruments, now you're learning not just how to manipulate a keyboard, but, the whole history of the flute, for instance, the whole history of percussion and, again, the cultures that are attached to these things. So I find myself, for a prolonged future here, swimming in these things, swimming in, again, riding the wave. What am I feeling? What is hitting me? What magnet is drawing me towards it?
And you have a lot of unreleased music, like we were talking about last night.
Doesn't every single musician just have 1,000 projects they've never released?
But so this album came out recently. Are you planning on, and I know we just, have been striving through the pandemic, but are you planning on touring for that album? Are you looking on working on another one? Like, if people are like, hey, where can I see you besides going on YouTube? What is there anything in store for you to go on the road and to
so I'm living in Austin, Texas right now.
Okay.
I've been, for the last 6 months, really for the last year, I've been doing like a daily set in my living room. So just honestly learning how to be a musician, just going through again that tough phase of performing live. You could make beats and twiddle around all day on the keyboard, but when it comes down to like delivering every lyric, and emphasizing every emotion, it's cool. You just do it 1,000 times, like we said with the kickflip. But so for the last year, I've been practicing a set, and the last 2 or 3 months, I've just been researching gear and figuring out live acoustics and live mixing and how all the cables work and signal chains, and
you're prepping for live.
Just the most technical stuff. Of course, you could say there's an art to it, but as someone who just likes to hit the flute key and then just sing on it, this is like some nerdy stuff. I'm having to go really deep, and learn a whole new world. But that's part of it again, is getting through that and maintaining the vision.
But what do you envision? Because I'll just for the new album, like this first track, I get this vibe where I can imagine you at Bonnaroo or Lightning in a Bottle or some other like big festival out there where there's just a bunch of people out there that it's just like a huge crowd, and I can imagine this music hitting that type of audience. It's got a sound, it's got a resonance that is like, for me, the way I describe it's like, for me, there's definitely a nautical sound, because especially the new album's going to an island and everything. But also there are mixtures of like some 80s sounds that are in there.
I like to call it psychedelic seafaring.
Okay.
That's the vibe. Well, I mean, again, I'm going to shed that vibe eventually.
Is that an available...
people are like, what's your genre? Everybody's like, what genre are you? I'm like...
Is that genre? Where do I search in Spotify?
Imagine that you're like on a boat, kind of tied to the mast because you've been kidnapped, and the sun is beaming on you and you're hallucinating.
Okay. And that's where it begins.
And now you break free, you take the boat over, whatever. The story is always there. But no, I think in the short term, again, I've been really trying to master the technical side of how to produce a certain sound live, because of course you spend a lot of time mixing and mastering and choosing instruments in the studio. You want to make sure that when you're performing them live, they have integrity. They show the integrity of all your work. So in Austin, for instance, I'm planning on having a show soon, probably in the next 2 to 3 months.
And are people doing live shows in Austin right now?
Yeah, they are.
And right now, just so everybody knows, it's April 17th, which just so happens to be my birthday. That is 2021.
Happy birthday, man.
And so, yes, thank you very much. But in Austin, because I think there's no like mask mandate anymore there. Is there live shows that are happening?
So there's no like federal mask mandate. Obviously,
the federal mask
businesses
mandate,
are still enforcing it a lot of the time. But yeah, in general, people are kind of starting to meet up a little bit more, and the energy's picking up around town. So
Can we expect a tour in the near future?
I mean, touring is, again, this is, for me, it's about like one thing at a time, right? I'm learning the live technical side. And then from there, I'm going to do my first show. And then from there, hopefully that can lead somewhere else. But it's just about preparing over time, I think.
So what, like 2022, can people expect a tour where you're going to all the
why
major
not,
cities?
Dude? Yeah.
New York, LA, the Bahamas.
Yeah, why not? I mean, that was actually my whole scheme. The whole reason I'm tapping into the island vibe is because I want the islands to invite me out there.
Okay. Yeah, and I'm just trying to get some type of like on the spot commitment, which makes you a little bit uncomfortable.
Yeah, I'm like scratching my head.
Hopefully makes it to where you're like, oh crap, I at least committed to it on the StarScript Observatory.
Let's do live shows. I'm prepared to do live shows right now. I'm prepared. Okay. Yeah, I'm prepared to do. Like I said, I've been doing a set for a year at my house. It'll probably be an acoustic live set. I haven't figured out the wiring of hooking up my MIDI to the computer,
and that's why we're here. That's why we're paying a homage and visit to the Universal Polymath Productions.
Right, and hopefully I'll play a little song for you here in a second.
Great, and so we're nearing. I think where I want to transition a little bit. We've talked about, your.
Let's talk about your deal here.
What you've currently been working on. We've talked about you historically, your skater influences, and then for the future, which we have been attempting to commit you to a tour for people who get exposed to your music. And for me, when I first got exposed to that recent album, I literally just there's some albums where you just discover it and you just leave it run. Right? You go throughout your day and you just it doesn't get old. You just keep it on. So that's kind of what happened to me. Plus with your past EP also.
Well, I think you love the tropical vibe. So.
I do. I love the tropical vibe, but I think
that's why.
It's ingrained in us in so many different ways that we like that escape from the city
to
move to the tropical island. And that's our idea of vacation. If you were to even probably Google vacation, you would just even see
pics.
Like tropical island, palm tree or whatever. But as an independent artist, right? You're not signed by a major label or anything like that.
I'm signed by the Lord.
By the Lord.
This is who I currently have a record deal with.
The Lord self, or maybe there is no self to the Lord.
Everything I do is in service to the Lord. I'll just say that.
Which really just means trustee if we want to go deep, right?
What I'm saying is when I'm hitting that fire in the booth, it's not mine. I'm just a messenger.
Gotcha, you're a channeler. Yes. Welcome to LA.
Well, I don't want to take all the ownership of, I didn't invent this stuff,
It's really, you're just kind of listening and seeing what sounds right.
I'm reflecting the things I've discovered along the way.
So what's your strategy? Right now you are you're an aspiring musician, like so many others out there, so many other artists that could totally relate to that.
Yeah.
What is your strategy? What current technologies are you using to further yourself?
Yeah, I mean, right now I'm slacking on all social media production, publishing music. I'm not really publishing too much at all. Right now I'm kind of deep diving into developing more musicality, developing more musical skills. And, obviously that can go hand in hand with publishing. So I'm going to be publishing here in the near future. I have, like I said, a huge hard drive of just past sessions of, so, I
what do you on? You're on Spotify right now.
I'm on Instagram at Lord Lightheart.
Okay.
I create some little cool meditation instrumentals every once in a while when I'm browsing through those Nat Geos and I find some inspirational photo. I create a little instrumental. I post that up. I just post things I'm inspired of. But really, again, I've been in a cocoon for a while. So the emergence is coming back out. And Twitter's, all these different social medias have their own function and are very cool. So I'm down to dabble. And, I'm not exactly inexperienced in that regard.
And, really the end result, right, of going on Instagram or having your stuff on Spotify or on YouTube is really just to gain exposure to an audience. Obviously with Spotify, you don't get the music video element. With Instagram, you could get the live element. With YouTube, you can get the recorded, maybe plus video, plus exposure to new audiences
in perpetuity.
Element. And it's that kind of, brings us over to StarScript Legends, which has recently started pre-alpha testing, and pre-alpha testing is
congratulations.
only... Yeah, thank you. 15 years. 15 years conceptually, yes, but 15 months of coding. Right. Basically all through the pandemic, I was coding. I learned to code in order to create it. I'd gone through years of mock-up and, of course, talking to different, artists and getting feedback on what they're looking for out of a production platform, what other platforms are falling short, or what features do they really like on other platforms. And you are a world builder, a contributor on StarScript Legends. So you're a pre-alpha tester, tier 3, which is basically you contributed to our crowdfunding campaign to help us raise money to make the whole thing happen. What feature are you looking forward to most, or what if you have a platform out there that is for yourself as a producer where you can not only connect with your fans, but also you can do so much more.
I can publish.
You can publish. You
yeah.
can.
So when you're in the music studio, it's just like being in a cockpit, right? It's like a command center. You're sitting down. You have all these different power channels kind of at you turn this knob up, this thing happens. You turn this up, this thing happens. Hit a little incense. You start playing more flutes, of course, but little chimes. But when I see StarScript Legends as kind of a cockpit of all social media. So a cockpit of publishing, a cockpit of releasing ideas, maybe to get votes from your fans. This idea of just connecting, of course, with your fan base, but not just that, but connecting with different creators and people that are vibing with you. There's got to be some other people that are hitting the same wave as you. And that's extremely exciting. What can you create when you one of the whole problems about collaborating is sometimes you're just not vibing with the other people, because they have their own world that they're building, and you may be on a different wave. And although that's fun as well, finding the mutual bridge. But on StarScript Legends, you'll be able to find, again, people that are riding the same wave. And again, like I said, it's the cockpit. It's being in a central location where from my seat in my computer, I'm controlling my whole operation. Mm-hmm. And so what in reality that means is I'm being granted power from this infrastructure network that you're building, and all of the implications of kind of a community, having a community at your fingertips for both me and for them, right? Because now they're going to have more access to, unless I don't publish stuff again
right. And maybe they could get on you about it.
Right.
You're like,
publish
where's
something.
When you come in to visit Bakersfield?
Stop being shy.
Yeah. Like, we know we lived in Bakersfield for a while.
When you were 7 years old.
Visit?
Yeah. And name the town after me.
Yeah. So yeah, it is community, is really important. Getting exposure is really important. I think there's been tons of challenges with lots of different platforms where it seems like you have to produce more content. It's like you end up sacrificing quality over quantity, because it seems like you have to produce content that's just on such a regular basis that a lot of people can't keep up, and so they won't even get rewarded as much because they're not able to produce content as much.
And you see this as the pressures of making a living, and you see I see thousands of musicians, people that have original and unique identities and expressions to make, and unfortunately, they're struggling to try to figure out a way to make a living, and so they're starting to do music tutorials, and let me tell you about this plugin, and that can obviously be an angle, but I know deep down those people want to be just striking the chord, and so again, this ability to find your niche and find a community and kind of just plug yourself in, and that's what it's an ecosystem, right? So it's beautiful.
And that by itself, I think, is really important, because the idea of going to so many different platforms, I have to learn this platform, that platform, and you're achieving these isolated functionalities. And for you as a musician or a writer draining. Or an artist, you're just like, I do want to be an entrepreneur because I want to be independent, but I don't necessarily want the burdens of knowing all of these different art forms, as I like to call them, but all these different professions.
Right,
like
I have to learn
marketing.
The in and outs of the YouTube algorithm, and then the Instagram algorithm, and then the Facebook algorithm, and then by the time I've spent 5 years learning the algorithms,
which is always changing,
they just switch them up again. Back to square one. So as far as I'm concerned, the focus as an artist should be on the message and
on the
music,
technique. Right.
Fire. We want fire. Everybody wants fire. Bring the fire.
Bring the
fire and the light, because fire brings light. So I just want to be warm and well lit.
The thing about fire is it's very destructive and it destroys things in the process. But
yeah, it'll destroy things. So
I'm a fire sign, so I definitely can relate to that. But
so the quality of your fire must be pure then,
right,
and rejuvenating.
Right. And definitely one thing we want to bring in the platform is not necessarily quality over quantity, because I do feel like there's so much quantity. Like you get punished, I feel, if you don't post on Instagram for a while. Like there was one time I was posting, I got like X amount of likes, and I think I got like 1/10 of that if I stop posting for a while.
Right, so the algorithm
same post even. It'll just be like, won't get as much action. So, and I understand all those platforms have their respective challenges to deal with. They all have value that they bring to the table. They all, And
there's there was the CEO of Spotify that had that like TED Talk deal or something where he's giving a speech talking about all you artists that are mad about having to release a song a day, get used to it or whatever. And it pissed off like the whole music industry.
No, wow, I
like
missed
all
that.
These legends and veterans were just like just mouthing off on Twitter. And obviously there's a tug of war happening right now, like you said, between quantity and quality.
I think it's like 0.006 cents per play that people get on Spotify.
These quantifications don't matter. The thing that matters is the vision and the execution of the vision through exploring the world of possibilities.
And then also to be able to deliver it to people who are interested in hearing it or watching it or listening it.
So
I think
for
really
StarScript
important.
Legends, for instance, people are coming to your website, they already understand the world that they're getting into. It's this interconnected galaxy of, stars, of people trying to reflect, this, whatever their expression is, and they're trying to, and so, whatever,
No, you're killing it right there. I was like, go.
Yeah. Again, it's an ecosystem of
aspiring stars.
Of flowing, it's of flowing juices, flowing energy, and blossoming flowers and fruits. And people are just consuming the fruits and, tilling the soils. And to me, that's what I see it as. I want to plug myself into an ecosystem that is healthy and that is filled with water and filled with life, Anyway, so tell me a little bit about what your platform can bring to me as an artist, because obviously I'm struggling to be publishing all the time and creating projects to drop. I'm just falling more and more in love with the actual craft itself. But, what is StarScript going to bring to me as an artist as I switch the tables on you here? Yeah,
you're more than welcome to. And so one thing, which is a key word that you said, is to bring forth an ecosystem for production and entertainment, to not have different places that you have to go to for the different requirements that are involved with production and the different requirements that are involved with the entertainment side or the publishing side, the exposure, the fan connection, to put that all into one place. But in addition to that, to make it to where it is easier for people for creators to form connections with other creators, to offer services, offer jobs, to produce something with other people, to be able to formulate deals and to...
So let me just stop you right there. So when you're in the creative mindset, right, and you're creating these different products or whatever, you're in this flow state. And the moment you have to stop to figure out how you're going to monetize it, figure out how you're going to get it out there, whereas in an ecosystem like this, people are hitting you up because they've seen your reel on your homepage, they're following your project, they realize that, you can come in for their project, they're going to handle the business deal, or they're going to come in and offer, you're not out, casting a huge net into this empty ocean and pulling nothing out of it for 10 hours a day.
Which happens... Like I would say, there's a lot of people that contribute art to other projects, but the challenge with contributing art to other projects is that you have this legal element. And let's face it, a lot of us artists out there are not, people who understand the legal world. So really one of the primary goals, for creators is to alleviate the entrepreneurial burden that independent creators face when they want to create something on their own. They have this burden of I need to have the legal, I need to have the finance, I need to have the marketing. And this is pretty much why record labels historically took a giant share. They had the connections, they had the business elements, they had stuff that could make perhaps, arguably a viable product, because some people would argue maybe it's not viable, which is why the record industry has definitely shifted over time. But that would be, I would say, the primary goal is for creators is for us to alleviate the entrepreneurial burden. And then for fans to have a more intimate connection with creators, to have a meaningful contribution, whether it be financially or whether it be through feedback or through voting or through other means, to give them an ability to participate in a way. Because, you know, a lot of a lot of patrons and fans really want to have closer connections with the artwork that they identify with.
Right.
And to have a platform to do that, to combine everything together, to say, okay, I want to go to this one place, and this one place I can go to is bringing me the ability to build my team, to produce, really generally speaking, to publish, and then to market and to connect with, to bring it to people who identify with the message, who are attracted to the message, and then for us to connect and communicate with one another about it. For those who identify with the message, to communicate with one another about it. I think that's really the end goal of the platform.
You know, another thing I was just thinking about is, if you're on this platform, you're there to collaborate. That type of thing is already understood. And so, you know, maybe you're shooting text messages or DMs to somebody on Twitter or Facebook or something, you're just getting no responses. Whereas if you're interacting with people on StarScript Legends, in theory, they're going to be like excited that you're reaching out, you know?
You know, that's really good. And in some ways that's like, you know, LinkedIn. And I understand that there's a lot of people who create accounts on LinkedIn and don't quite understand how it works, but there's this community on LinkedIn that exists where it's people know that this is a place to network. You're creating a profile in a lot of ways so that people can reach out to you, so that you could reach out to other people to connect. They can get an idea of who you are, see if there's some type of common chemistry that exists. And it's there. Now, granted, some people don't get it. Some people I can reach out to on LinkedIn. They're like, why are you contacting me? I don't know you. I'm like, isn't that the point? You know, we're trying to connect with, you know, like-minded individuals. So
again, though, when you're making these connections, you got to bring the fire. It's all about bringing fire.
So that would be your closing advice, pretty much, for people who are going on any platform or Legends.
I look at business and I look at marketing as this framework, or building this kind of infrastructure by which you're channeling the energy through. So, but the real deal is that when you're bringing the energy through, you better make sure that energy is hot and moving fast, you know?
You've got the fire, because really at the end of the day, it's kind of, that's the current.
Yeah.
That's the currency, that's the energy.
Or if it's some romantic, you know, sappy, it can move a little slower, but just, it's got to be heavy.
But it's got to have
rich.
It's got to have a force that moves it forward.
Exactly. And this is, so it comes down to touching the heart, which again, boom. Okay.
We could close on that.
Let's just
touching the heart. We should give credit to you for flying out, not only for my birthday.
I flew out just for this interview,
but for the interview to LA, and we're in the Deep Boo right now. And then we've got Deepak Ramapriyan, also known as the other Deepak, who helped us set up the studio.
Yeah, his studio is
amazing. For sound,
and
Jennifer Esteban that helped us with lighting.
Yeah, I'm a little bummed that, you know, we're here for an interview and not here to jam out a little bit, but I guess
do you want to play something?
Oh yeah, we better play something.
We may have time. I think. Well, you can play something. Maybe Deepak can jam with you.
Maybe you can hit the drums or something.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm a drum person per se.
Let's do it.
But
let's do it. We'll fade to it. Let's cut it. You ready?
We can cut it right now. Should we look to the camera? I know, you know, some of us, maybe we've been breaking the fourth wall a little bit, but maybe we should just look to the camera, and then we could say, cut it.
This song's called Holy Woman.
Can't get you out of my brain, holy woman. You're driving me insane, holy woman. Won't you ease my pain, my holy woman? The way that you walk around, your lovely voice was a song. I'm turning my life around for you, my holy woman. So take my pain away, make me feel okay. I'm wounded and easy prey, oh my holy woman. Holy woman, holy woman, holy woman, holy woman. And when the sun leaves the earth when I fall in the field and my fate seems oversealed, I pray to the night above for my holy woman, for my holy woman, for my holy woman. You know who you are.